This is the Blockchain Show, brought to you by Axel. The innovative team that successfully launched its blockchain-powered Axel network announces an initial exchange offering with ProBit as the latest development in its comprehensive Axel ecosystem. Learn more at Axel.Network.
The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 135, this special episode of the Blockchain Show with Jeremy. Jeremy, welcome back.
Thank you. It was great to be back.
Welcome back.
So we got Steve here. Yeah, so we got some new announcements here. Jeremy, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, we are in the process of launching an IEO coming up here soon in August. So we're really excited about that. It's just been an interesting ride.
Yeah, so last time we talked, we learned about Axel and Axel.Network. Do you think you could maybe bring the audience quickly back up to speed in case they haven't been introduced yet to the whole project?
Absolutely, yeah. So Axel, kind of over the last kind of decade, really, we've been trying to build products that kind of really help people gain greater control of their data. And certainly with regards to content, we're really passionate about content. In the last kind of decade, I think we've seen, a lot of stuff has moved online, a lot of our data, a lot of our content. You've had social media companies and a lot of other kind of platforms that have done incredible things, but also in the process, we've started to kind of see an erosion of our control over our own data, our own identity. So a lot of the products that we make and a lot of the focus that we emphasize, certainly around our technology, is to try to give people greater control, kind of greater custody over their data and their content. Certainly, I think the last few years, we've seen a lot of content creators that have been really frustrated with monetization and a lot of the platforms kind of taking control. And what we want to do is build an ecosystem where people feel like they have greater freedoms and controls over their data. So we built several apps, and currently we have the IPFS pinning, and IPFS is distributed. So that's really kind of the emphasis of what we've been doing and the products we've been making over the last 10 years. But certainly the last 2 years has been really focused in and around the blockchain technology. So which has kind of led us now to this point of an IEO, which is taking us and trying to open us up and expose us to a new audience and give people access to our tokens.
Yeah, and the whole concept of IEOs, I don't think we've really touched on that too much on this show. Do you think you could maybe just tell us what is an IEO?
So an IEO is an initial exchange offering. And I think, obviously after the crypto winter and the kind of surge of ICOs, I think the market and certainly the community and the industry was looking to develop new models to give people access to tokens. So it emerged from that, where an ICO, you would do the sale of tokens directly to your users and customers. An IEO runs through an exchange. What's kind of exciting about that is that you tap into a new user base with the exchange directly. Plus, there's a lot of security and safeguards that kind of run through it, because everybody has to go through the KYC and AML, which kind of means that the exchanges who are already set up with that infrastructure kind of run through that. I mean, we have our own AML KYC protocols and the partner that we work with Cabin, but it just means that they can funnel a lot of people. There's the infrastructure, there's the purchase infrastructure. So it's essentially an ICO that just runs through an exchange. And I think it's been kind of exciting that the kind of market and the industry has developed new models to get people access to tokens. Obviously, there's STOs as well, which are security token offerings. So it's become very, very dynamic space, but we felt an IEO was a good place to start to kind of really expose people to our tokens and our ecosystem, bring new users on board.
And why did you choose ProBit?
We've been really searching to work with partners. So everybody we work with, like I said, right now we were working with Cabin for our KYC, and they've become a partner. We've, teamed up with UNLV, which is the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and actually one of their professors has become our chief information officer. It's really important to make sure that you choose the right people that share your vision and share your values. And I think ProBit does that. There's a lot of incredible exchanges out there, but there's also a lot of exchanges that I think don't deliver value for their users. There's a lot of exchanges out there that, to be honest with you, they kind of do the pump, and they kind of superficially inflate prices of their tokens, and do things that I don't think necessarily fit with our values. We're an established company, and I think the blockchain space has got a lot of incredible companies out there. But let's be honest. 90% of projects failed for a reason over the last 2 years, and that's because they weren't good businesses. They didn't have sound business models. They didn't necessarily have the right ideas. And what we want to do is make sure that the space has got a lot of legitimacy, because the technology is incredible. Digital currency and crypto is an incredible innovation. So we want to make sure that we partner with people who are going to see this industry and this technology, for the next several decades, kind of grow and develop and innovate. So we wanted to partner with someone who shared our vision and our values. And I think ProBit does that. It's not the biggest exchange, but we weren't in it for that. We're in it to give people access to tokens. They have an incredible technology, which is, I think, 1.5 million transactions per second. So, in terms of how they're able to handle trading volume. So it was a great exchange, and it really fit with us and what we're trying to achieve.
It looks like the go on sale August 11th. Is that correct?
August 12th. August 12th.
Okay.
Well, so technically, probably August 11th, our time here in the US. It's Korean exchange, so they're operating in
Greenwich Mean Time -5.
Yeah, so technically in the United States it's the 11th, but kind of globally it's the 12th of August.
Okay. So people have some time to check out ProBit, and we've got a lot of new tokens that they're offering. Are you looking at any other ones that they're offering besides Axel that you find interesting?
There's one called Bolt, which I think was kind of interesting. We've been kind of looking at some of the other projects. Obviously, you want to make sure that you kind of analyze and look at the ones that have been successful. But they've run several successful IEOs, and but there's definitely some interesting projects out there. So Bolt was one of them, and I think what I kind of like about them is, again, I think they've been really working hard to kind of establish legitimacy within their project. They're empowering users with health data, and they actually have, I think, actual products. So similar to a Fitbit and everything like that. So, and I think certainly with health data, that was a really interesting product, because certainly with health, we want to make sure that you establish legitimacy. Blockchain, I think, has the ability to make sure that you can track things in a really authentic way and kind of maintain that consistency. But it's also connecting with actual hardware products as well, which I think is really cool, and it just adds a different dynamic to use cases and adoption. And I think they actually have quite a few people as well. I think they've got quite a few people using their products right now. So they're a really interesting product around health data. I think trying to take on like Apple. So that's obviously big ambition, but that's really exciting. I mean, we're trying to take on obviously all the content spaces. So YouTube and everybody. Got to have big ambitions.
Bolt looks pretty cool. I know that when you think of medical health records, they are the worst. They're terrible. They're built with billing in mind and not with the user or the doctors in mind, and that really has ripple effects throughout all of the healthcare. If you've noticed how bad healthcare is nowadays, it's largely because of the way billing is a priority in your medical records. And it's a sad state of affairs how terrible the profession is in my mind. So anything that can help that, like Bolt, sounds pretty great to me. Taking on, the establishments, like Netflix. I know that, I think, Ethan was mentioning last week on the show that people are having comedians don't want to do specials with Netflix anymore, because then Netflix owns their content. And, with something like Axel, you'll be able to maintain ownership of your content, which is really cool.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things. And actually both those points, certainly with content creators, it's really coming down to ownership. And if, the recent phenomenon of FaceApp, was a really interesting use case. And actually, if you read through their terms and conditions, they actually owned everything they said everything that you uploaded, but that actually, if you connected your photos to that, they could theoretically access every single photo and use your photos, that ones that you didn't apply their face app algorithm to. But the thought of like, hold on a second here, I use this app and I uploaded it, and now this company now controls my image rights essentially. And you have to really be careful with the terms and conditions. But a lot of people becoming really dissatisfied with Netflix, with YouTube, with I have a lot of friends who are content creators, million plus subscribers, and they're really feeling the squeeze. They're getting millions and millions of views, and they're making money for these platforms, and they feel like they're constantly being dictated to how they should do their content, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, even stuff that's not inappropriate, but it's you have a few complaints and then you have to deal with that. But or they demonetize your content. I had recently a friend who's a YouTuber. He had one of his videos demonetized, and it's a real frustrating battle. And ultimately the videos can be demonetized, but YouTube is still benefiting. They're still your users are still coming to YouTube to watch you. So I think it's become very unfair. And I think a lot of comedians, I've read a similar article that a lot of content creators who've been making a lot of content for Netflix, unless you have a massive deal with them, you're not really kind of, one, making the money with the streaming services, but two, also that they control your content, and it becomes very, very, very restrictive. And the same thing goes for photographers, for example. Like some of the big stock photography platforms, they take up to 90% of your revenues. 90%. You're making 10%. That's just, you can't survive on that unless you're really pushing and promoting your stuff. So I think content creators are really being squeezed right now by platforms, and it doesn't benefit users. It doesn't benefit the content creators. It only benefits the people in the middle. So it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's definitely the main benefit of blockchain, in my opinion, is taking out the middleman, getting rid of middleman. If you have a buyer and a seller, and the only thing your organization does is kind of like match those wants, doesn't provide anything else of value, and takes all of the profit out of it, it's not really a great deal. Like Uber does that, and Airbnb, and these places really squeeze the people who are actually providing the service, versus, all they're really doing is providing a marketplace, or providing a match that sometimes I get lost in my own thought, but
No, but you're entirely right. It's the technology's doing the lion's share. And look, we're a business. We want to make money. I think, I don't work for free, and I think if people want to establish businesses and everything, they should make money, and they should put the energy and the effort. And money, obviously, drives the incentive to succeed in a lot of respects. But then there's a point at which, if you're extracting all the value and everybody else, is kind of taking the hit, over time, people are going to start to get frustrated, and I think I know a lot of Uber drivers have been on strike recently, and there's been a lot of complaints around, some of these big companies about that. And I think people are now starting to say, hold on a second here. And it's so, the time is ripe for a lot of companies to come in and say, hey, here we have a solution. And, obviously we're aiming to be one of those companies, but, there's just a lot of really, really good products out there. I think I spoke last time about, BAT, the basic attention token. And how I really feel that's, it really is, it's kind of just changes the dynamic on kind of who is controlled. It's like, you should have to earn my attention, because we all have an economic value to Google. It's like $180, and Facebook's like $150. And, we have this economic values, but someone else is making the money off of me, off of my data, off of my identity. And, I think people just that dynamic should be switched a little bit.
Yeah, BAT's really great if you haven't tried their browser, Brave browser. It's Firefox, and it makes it super, super fast. Your internet removes all the ads, and if you want to donate, say $5 a month or $10 a month to different websites that you visit, BAT will track which which content you view, and then pay out at the end of the month BAT tokens. They did hit the news a little bit this week, kind of negatively a little bit, where as a content creator, you now have to go through know your customer type stuff. So you can actually earn BAT as a content creator, or being paid for your getting BAT from the BAT wallet without know your customer stuff. So
I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think there's a lot of, we've been through that. Like, technology is difficult, and it's hard to find that right balance, because ultimately, when you're kind of setting up a business, you obviously, first and foremost, you have to make sure that you can create a sustainable business. But you want to, I think, certainly, idealistically, you want to make sure that you deliver a huge amount of value for your customer. But then when you start bringing in stakeholders, and you're a matchmaker between content creators or a service provider and a customer, and if you're the middleman, you're always trying to balance that dynamic. That you have to make sure that you maintain yourself as a company. And so, like I said, I don't mind people making money as again, quote unquote middleman, but it's how much pressure they put on the kind of the end user and the people that are, one, trying to make a living from this, and the other two trying to extract some entertainment or some value from that. So but there's and there's a lot of good projects, and I think probably basic attention tokens just trying to find the right balance and the right model. And it's tough. It's tough.
You had mentioned that you were partnering with UNLV. What have you done recently with UNLV that is kind of interesting? What do you have plans in the future to partner with them for?
So Dr. Kim, who is one of the professors there, he kind of handled a lot of security protocols, but he's also actually established one of the first curriculums and courses for postgraduates for blockchain. So I several months ago, I gave a lecture to the students on blockchain adoption and how blockchain fits into, I think, a market ecosystem in terms of how people make money from it, how people build use cases and products. So we gave a lecture to their students. And then we also took part in their blockchain day. So they hosted a blockchain day, Nevada Blockchain Day. And I was on the panel, and, we spoke at the conference, and we kind of were able to speak to a lot of the students. I mean, I got to say, some of the students there had some incredible ideas, and they had built some phenomenal technology. It was really, really exciting to see that they'd actually not only kind of theorized how they could adapt and use blockchain for use cases, actually went out and built the products. There's a really cool guy there called Zach, and he kind of built this, the ability to kind of do multi-pay with blockchain and tokens. So you could, create multiple users at the same time. That was really, really cool. And I think that will be certainly for like business accounts and everything. That will be a really, really interesting protocol in the future. There was one that they were doing it with gaming. Obviously, we're gaming town, so they built a gaming protocol and looking at randomization utilizing blockchain. So there's some really, really cool projects there. And so that was a really exciting day. I kind of spoke on a panel. It was really exciting to be with Blockchain LLC. They're the guys who up north of Northern Nevada, they're building a blockchain or a crypto utopia up north. They've got a huge parcel of land, and they're building this. They want to build this decentralized, fully decentralized town, for lack of a better word. But they're also doing a lot with curriculum and actually pushing blockchain legislation in Nevada to make Nevada a powerhouse for blockchain and make it a really appealing place for companies to set up blockchain. We're a competitive business environment with our tax structure here, business taxes being zero. And we are also trying to, establish Nevada as a place to come do business with blockchain. So it was a really exciting day. And then, as I said, we've got Dr. Kim on board, and we hope to be doing more lectures and partnering with UNLV and Blockchain LLC to do a lot more, run a lot more initiatives. We want to help establish curriculums, getting people to learn more about blockchain vocations, and really kind of fostering a new generation of innovators within the industry.
Did you have any opinions on any of your co-sponsors for that event, like Blockchains or City Ledger or Turing Chain?
Yeah, Turing Chain was really interesting. It was kind of sitting next to them, I felt very, very old because they were very, very young, but they were really, really interesting. It just, they have an interesting technology, and I shared the panel with them. So it was nice to kind of speak with them afterwards. Blockchains is just doing so much under the radar. And I think that I was really excited to be with them and speak to them. And, we're really trying to partner up and run more initiatives, but they're doing a lot with trying to establish blockchain vocations and curriculum and courses to funnel people through into the industry. So they're running kind of vocational courses, and also, like I said, behind the scenes running a lot with legislation here in Nevada to really champion this industry and make sure that we can establish a whole new generation of businesses to set up here in Nevada. So they've been doing a lot, and the guys there are really, really cool, and they're really passionate. And I think that's one of the cool things.
Did they buy Slockit? It looks like they purchased Slockit, which is kind of the same people who created the DAO.
Yes.
That's interesting. I didn't know. Hadn't heard of this company before. Cool.
To be honest with you, they have so many things that just kind of happen. I was surprised when we started kind of working with them. I was really surprised that there's just so many different things that they've been kind of involved with. Obviously I think the biggest headline thing that what they're known for is obviously the kind of the blockchain city, decentralized city that they're building up north and the big land. It's actually kind of a fun thing. It's kind of a fun concept because, there's a lot of potential, and I think it's trying to establish can you really run a decentralized society, without decentralized ecosystem? We're still so locked into centralization, central banks and central this and, centralized control of everything. And I think it's an interesting concept, and Nevada is probably a good place to start with it. We kind of, there's a real, I think, identity here in Nevada of, as long as everybody, treats everybody right, everybody kind of just likes to be left alone. So I think the mentality here in Nevada is right for that. But it'll be really interesting because, we still, I still can't, I still think in fiat, but everybody that we work with now, we know people that actually only take their salaries in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin obviously tripled in price, and the price that they're charging is still the same price because they don't operate anymore. I've actually met several people who only, try to entirely live off of crypto. And it's a really interesting concept that they've migrated over to this, to digital currencies, and they think they absolutely treat it as an absolute currency. So they don't think like, all right, one ETH is, $200. They think one ETH is one ETH. That's kind of cool. It's kind of interesting. It's interesting, and it's it's going to take a while, I think, for society to kind of change their mentality on how we treat digital currencies. But there's people out there really working towards it. And blockchains are one of the ones.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting when we'll actually have like a closed system where, producers and companies can not only accept crypto as payments, but then, their producers and their suppliers, they're paying with crypto, and you have a closed loop economy, and you don't have to have all the exchanging from crypto to fiat. Because right now, if you're most companies that accept crypto, they convert it instantly to cash or to whatever fiat currency that they're dealing with, because they have to pay their suppliers and their employees, and not everybody is as crypto minded as we are here. But it'll come with time. I think anytime new technologies come along, it takes some time to form that closed system, but making lots of progress, I think.
You need the infrastructure in order to do that, because ultimately at the end of the day, it'd be nice to operate that way, but most people require money to get by, fiat currency to kind of get by every day. Grocery stores don't necessarily take crypto, and you're kind of at the behest of obviously the market forces. So I think it's gonna take a while to transition, but I think one of the interesting things would be to see what happens when someone like Facebook, which I know who kind of been really teasing that out in a very big way, but something like Amazon, which has just an entire commerce infrastructure set up to do that. If they introduce their own kind of digital currency, that would be to a billion customers. That's you're creating, like Facebook. If you got 10%, you'd be having a use base, a currency use, which is rivals probably 90% of the countries in the world in terms of how they use that currency. So that would become one of the top 10 currencies in the world. That's pretty intense. That's pretty intense. Transition. And I think a lot of people would adopt that. I think a lot of people would use that, because Facebook has so many services now, but it would be someone like Amazon who did it would be huge. That would be a massive thing, particularly with that it control Whole Foods. So you could buy your groceries, you could buy virtually anything you needed. And even services, Amazon's providing a lot of services now. So it's not without out of the realms of possibility that in the next 10 years, there'll be a company which develops a currency that rivals the US dollar or the yuan or the euro. I don't think that's out of the realms of possibility.
Yeah. And as horrible as Facebook is for privacy and users' privacy, it's a pretty bad company for that. It would still be a huge boon to most of the developing world to have this currency, to have a global currency, even from a relatively evil corporation as Facebook. But it would be better if, in Amazon, or I don't know, Amazon seems to be pretty, it's hard to find one of these major multinational companies that don't have some sort of privacy issues with them. I guess Apple is probably the best on that frontier, as far as I understand. They're a little better at trying to keep users' data private, but I don't think there's any perfect large company out there. Everybody, certainly Google and Facebook are largely, their business model is to, harvest user data and then provide them with ads.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is. It's, Facebook and the Libra coin is one of those things that I think a lot of people, it's like sit on the fence. You're like, at one hand, you're like, I don't really like what Facebook's doing over here, but this could really be the thing that takes, digital currencies and crypto and, blockchain and brings it to the world and really, really introduces it to the world. I still speak to people, and everybody, they don't really, you say cryptocurrency and they'll just give you a blank stare, or blockchain and they give you a blank stare, but you say Bitcoin and they kind of, they get the word, but no one really gets the concept. And so I think we're still a ways off from mass adoption until someone like Facebook comes along and introduces it. But yeah, you're right. There's no good company out there. There's no, in terms of being perfect about how they handle users' data, because ultimately at the end of the day, their businesses and their priority, the first and foremost, is to shareholders, and I think that just unfortunately creates a bad dynamic for sellers or content creators and ultimately users. I think I've had to change my password on Facebook a gazillion times because of data breaches, or there was this, and it's I think people are starting to get frustrated, and now that their users are starting to get frustrated, I think the companies are starting to transition a little bit. Apple jumped on that bandwagon a little bit quicker than everybody else, and kind of actually said, you know what? But at the end of the day, they also have such a closed ecosystem that they can do that. They don't need to sell advertising, to make money. In fact, makes up a very, very small fraction. They're a hardware company, and now they're a service provider. But if you have an iPhone, then and a MacBook, then, I'm not going to buy Amazon's Fire Stick. I'm going to buy an Apple TV, which I have. Everything I have is Apple. So, about $1,000 worth of movies on my on the Apple TV. So, if I pretty much am stuck with Apple for the rest of my life, I think, if I want to watch my movies.
They do a pretty good job of locking you in once you buy one of their products. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm paying a premium for privacy. I think that's probably the message is like, if you want privacy, you got to pay a lot of money for it.
Yeah. It doesn't really have to be that much. If you were to do something like all the services that Google offers and all the services that Facebook offers, which is a lot of services. I mean, they make our lives, those two companies, so much easier. I mean, Google Maps, that type of thing costs a lot of money to build, but it's $180 a month for that and Gmail and their Office suite and everything else that you could use for just giving up your privacy. So it's not like the most amount of money in the world to your value to the company for the services that they provide. Those two companies, everything they provide, maybe $300 a month for some really, really, really great services that make our lives so much better. I don't know. I like maps. I like having, instant information, but I'd rather have my privacy with it as well. And I think there's companies like Axel, like some other ones that we've had on the show that can really give the power back to users and keep privacy intact and still have these services. So
no, I 100% agree. I think that and there's a lot of really intelligent and innovative people who are operating out there in the ecosystem, and I think people just need to come together or build the right infrastructure for people to build on top of. If you build, our goal is, with Axel Network was to build a network that other developers could build these kind of apps and dApps on top of, and these protocols that they could build on top of our platform. And it just requires everybody, I think, coming together and working together as a community to innovate and develop and build, I think, rivals to some of the big companies. And I think, one way or the other, either, the community is going to build applications and products and services that rival those companies, or it's going to force those companies into thinking a different way. It's you look at oil companies that are now having to invest in renewable technologies because, one, obviously oil's running out, but two, the market is moving in that way. Tesla, is Tesla the greatest car company in the world? I don't know. They make beautiful cars and I think they make exciting cars, but, VW is now committed to making an all electric fleet by 2030. So, in the next decade, we'll see, a car company going completely electric from being a traditional car company. So, at the very least, it's going to force companies to behave differently. But best case scenario is that we see a slew of new innovative products come onto the market, which is kind of what I'm looking for. I think innovation only happens when you're racing and chasing something. We went to the moon because we were trying to outpace Russia in the United States. So it was, you need almost that competitive drive to push you. And right now, I think a lot of these big companies have just rested on their laurels, just kind of said, who's going to challenge us? And, I think now people, and you look at the financial industry now, they started freaking out about Bitcoin. That was kind of exciting to see. I think, if as much as I don't always like how Google and Facebook kind of do things sometimes, they, at least I feel like I've kind of gotten some value from them, of some enjoyment. With banks, I just feel like, banks you just constantly feel like you're getting screwed all the time.
You're definitely getting screwed by the banks all the time.
And I think that's certainly, I think for the financial sector, that's really, where I'd like to see, the blockchain industry and certainly crypto and, some of these new banking emerge, decentralized banks and, or even, kind of micro ecosystems, where we're talking about blockchains where you can exist in a little micro economy utilizing digital currencies. I think that would be really exciting, but and more transparency and more control for users. Banks really do just put they do dominate and control your life. And you look at the credit industry right now. It's not even a credit industry; it's a debt industry. Is almost forcing people into debt. And you look at credit scores, and where everybody gets obsessed with this. I need to have this. My credit score is this, but it's not a credit score; it's a debt score. It's like how much debt you have to get into debt in order to make the score go higher, so that you can get into more debt. It's a really bizarre cycle. And then the credit agencies they control your data. You have no choice over that. Equifax is just like, you look at that. It's like none of us chose to be part of Equifax, this private company. None of us said, this is what we want to be part of. We want our data with this company. And then they totally mismanaged and were negligent over how they handled people's data. Then they're like, oh, sorry. A bunch of executives did something illegal in sharing their sales before they selling their shares before they exited and or made the announcement. And it's just been so little consequences for that. If I did that, I'd go to jail. But this company that basically mismanaged people's data without their consent, people didn't consent to use this company. And now they're offering $125, but you're not even going to get $125 because they only allocated enough money for just to give people money for about 200,000 people. So more people than that signed up, and now people are going to get like a couple of maybe $1. So it's just ludicrous.
Yeah, it's definitely a huge need for people to be able to have self-sovereign identity and kind of manage their own sort of trust score or whatever the market decides, if it's not necessarily a credit score, because the credit score is basically how much money you can make for a company if they loan you. It's not like this person is worthy of paying back. It's this person will likely give you a good return on your investment. You have to take out loans.
Well, you have to manage. You have to have a debt ratio. So it's someone who pays off their credit card bill every month is not necessarily going to always have a great score. Actually being responsible is not always a good thing for you if you want to increase your credit score. And I think that's the insane thing, is that you have to maintain it's like 30%. You have to maintain this debt ratio. You don't want to go over it, but you don't want to go under it either, because if you just, if you're keeping a zero balance on your stuff, then and so, but we all work to this debt score. It's our kind of almost badge of honor. Hey, I'm in the 700s. Hey, I'm in the 800s. To get in the 800s, you have to cycle through a phenomenal amount of debt. Like, that's really not what we want to be doing as a society. But that's that cycle. And then, the people who manage all that information are losing it, and there's no consequences for it. It's, and I think that's where decentralization and blockchain has a real potential to change the dynamic. It's not saying that we don't want people to make money, but all that money's being concentrated with a few irresponsible people right now. And that's just, and the people who suffer are, it's, for example, my dad, I think, was caught up in that Equifax where people actually used his data, and he had to completely establish a new credit identity as a result of that, because someone set up a sell contract in his name and all that kind of stuff. And, so he's now suffering as a result of that. But, the guys who completely didn't know what they were doing, sold their shares, and, they've, I know they're being investigated, but it's very little consequences. A lot of people make a lot of money from making mistakes, and that just really does not seem like the way we should be doing business.
I agree. Is kind of right now the ProBit IEO the biggest thing, Axel, or the most current thing that Axel's got going on right now, the ProBit IEO?
Yes, so that's our major push right now. We've released the pinning facility. We've been having thousands of people using kind of decentralized storage and file sharing, which is really, really cool. We're really excited about that. But the tokens being used, thousands of uses every single day, which is really, really exciting. So that's obviously the main product we have out in the ecosystem, in addition to our other products existing right now. But then we have the IEO on the 12th of August, and that's kind of our major push and our major focus right now. So really looking forward to that. And then following on from that is, we're going to be pushing more products. We've got a pretty exciting product pipeline. So we're really looking forward to developing that. And that includes actually enabling our existing products with blockchain for, our existing TAC app, Axel TAC app, which is file sharing and transferring, and then private photo sharing app, which hopefully rivals Instagram.
Oh wow!
talking about Facebook. So it was built as kind of a sideline project, but it's just done really, really well. Very organically. And what we want to do with that is allow people to be able to monetize their photos in a more effective way, so that you could have like a public feed, but then if you wanted to create private buckets for, you can have a private bucket, but then you can monetize that event, by creating a paywall specifically for that event. But that'll hopefully give content creators the ability to, build up their social profiles, but then monetize that content. Because right now, they have to monetize directly with brand sponsors for Instagram, but we want to be able to basically help them monetize their users, with content, which a lot of people are doing via Snapchat, but it's a really clumsy process. So it's just trying to create products for content creators to have more options. But it's kind of been a passion project of mine. It's called Let Me See. But we've had a couple 100,000 downloads on it. I'm pretty pleased with that, because it's not been a major product focus, because we've been really focused on the technology and the network. But I've really enjoyed kind of developing that and kind of getting some of the responses back. People from tour guides have written to us and said, "Yeah, we used it. We went on a Italian trip, and everybody downloaded this," because what you can do is you can invite people to an event. So you create an event and invite everybody, and everybody then can contribute their photos to that event. So it's not like, "Hey, you took a picture of me on vacation. Can you text me?" And you're kind of going through text and trying to download it. It kind of brings a central point for that. So, but we want to kind of develop that, we've created kind of privacy protocols on there, so you can't download them unless you have permissions, and but then you can also share the links with people, and say here, and that link can expire. So we have a lot of really cool features in that, and that's, like I said, been a passion project, but really looking to possibly integrate distributed technology into that.
I think next time you're on, we'll have to talk a little more about Let Me See and kind of really dive deep into it, and maybe if you wanted to talk a lot more about it, because it looks pretty cool. Kind of running out of time for the day. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we? No,
it's great. It's just always great talking to you guys. It's kind of cool because you get to talk about some of the I think the more exciting aspects, I think the vision behind this whole industry, blockchain and what digital currency and how it can empower people. So it's always good talking about that.
It's great to talk to you, because there's a lot of people who just want to stick to their points of, what's going on with their business. And you're very open to talking about, the larger space in general. And you're really focused on promoting, blockchain mainly in Las Vegas and the Nevada and, the world in general. And it's just it's refreshing to see, the passion behind the work that you're doing. So grateful to have you on the right team.
Thank you. It was great. Again, it's great speaking to you guys.
Maybe we could add real quickly, for anyone listening who'd like to get involved, where should they go?
Oh, yeah. So if anyone would like to get involved in ProBit, you can obviously go to ProBit itself, probit.com, or you can visit our website, Axel.Network, and there's information there that will take you to ProBit and kind of give you a little bit more information about the IEO.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Jeremy. It's been good talking to you.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Take care, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I'd like to thank the team at Axel for sponsoring us this month. The innovative team that successfully launched its blockchain-powered AXEL network announces an initial exchange offering with ProBit as the latest development in its comprehensive AXEL ecosystem. Learn more at Axel.Network. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of The Blockchain Show. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We'd really appreciate it if you could give us a kind review on Apple Podcast, wherever you get this podcast. If you've already done that, thank you so much. Please share this episode with someone. Yeah, appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.